Dear Mejo, I was very happy to hear from you. You're quite right to ask how I could possibly be so bad at keeping up with correspondence when my own surname means a letter in Swahili. Cleaning out this shed of family possessions brought your question back into my mind. What's kept me in Poland these last 5 years? When Dad called me from Nairobi the other day, he also asked me the same question. Why am I staying so long here in Lodz? I reminded him that when he came here in 1961, he stayed even longer. There have been some big changes in my life which make moving a little bit more complicated. I am married. Dagmar and I have a baby girl, Naomi. She's a year and a half now. Her name means my sweetness. I tell you, it couldn't be another one. My little Naomi now has a Polish mother, just as I do. I wonder what her story will be. The longer I stay here, the more I get drawn into the mysteries of Polish traditions, which after 1,000 years of existence have come to mingle with Africa through me. This here reminds me of the food offerings placed by Grandma Fatuma for our ancestors back in Mombasa. Dagmara works as a journalist at the local radio station. It's a pity you can't tune in from Kenya. You'd have to learn Polish. Don't be put off that it's so difficult. My dad mastered it. I was spared this problem as we spoke Polish at home in Nairobi with Mum. For Naomi, it's also going to be her first language. Now that I'm married and a father, I feel even closer to what my parents experienced. I'll never be able to express how much I love them for the choices they made. I've always wanted to know my mother's family. I wouldn't have felt complete otherwise, and still I like to find out more about them. These are the parish registers known as Księgi Wieczyste, the eternal books, where I've found my whole family. But this is what is left of my mother's family here in Lodz. I arrived to witness their last days, days I will always treasure. Here is my grandma Tesha. Mom used to tell us so much about how she strove for the family in the war years. Here is my great-grandfather Tomasz. He was one of the builders of this city. Almost every day I walk by the regal buildings he made. Now, plaster is peeling off them. Here is my grandfather Stanisław. He was the best tailor in town. And a poet. A true artist. He made my first real suit and wrote the only poem ever dedicated to me. On his deathbed, he gave me his wedding ring. Next is my uncle Marian, my auntie Anya, and my great-grandmother Augusta. Here is my great-grandfather Józef. He was learning French as a hobby right up to when he died, 101 years old. And now, I'm here in Lodz as the last keeper of our family graves. My uncle Kazik used to come to this park to play chess. He taught me the secrets of this ancient game, as old as Bao, played by my elders back in Bamburi, also on a 64-place board.
Gdzie by poszedł? Ale już byłby koniec. Ale pan by musiał się odsunąć. Nie, pan by musiał się odsunąć. I od razu tutaj pan idzie, już jest królówka i koniec.
A może wszystko jest możliwe.
One of the reasons why I'm still here in Lodz is having access to the famous Lodz Film School, where I studied film directing. It's got production facilities that I wouldn't have in Kenya. As it is, my story at the film school began way before I was born. My grandfather Stanisław, the tailor, used to be a doorman here. When the Second World War ended, Poland was unwillingly turned into a communist country. He was forced to close down his successful tailoring studio and to support his family take the job here. He had never felt so humiliated in all his life. I would really like for my life story to stay in a can here and outlive me for perhaps a couple of 100 years. When my grandfather heard that first my elder brother Stan, then myself were to join the school, he was very much against it. He was a very devout Christian and disapproved of the film school as an immoral place, an image set by Polański and others at the time. But as I found out, he did take part in a well-known school film, an improvised western made with Kirk Douglas.
To jest starszy pan, który jako statysta grał szeryfa naprzeciw właśnie Kirk Douglasa.
Wiem, ale nie wiem, jak to teraz chyba, tak?
Nie jest, tak starszy pan. Zauważyli parodię?
Tak, ale nie znamy go. Nie wiem, kto to jest.
To jest mój dziad.
Tak?
Tak.
Tak? A teraz chwycimy uwagę do rzeczy.
Aspiring filmmakers would also come to this promised land of Polish filmmaking to try their hand at throwing their images on the screen. And every time that the lights would go up after a screening, the first thing that would happen would be the chandeliers, still shaped as candles that would slowly lit up, and there you'd be as the filmmaker, withholding your breath, waiting to see what the rest of the audience would react to your film. The Rider was the first film I made with my brother Stan. At its premiere, I overheard a professor grumbling from the back row. This must be the mixed up African imagination. We made our last film, Forgotten Places in Kenya. It's the only big screen documentary ever made in the Swahili language. A pity, our grandfather never got to see any of our films. They might have changed his mind. I keep the memory of my 3 film school friends who died in a car crash just outside Lodz. The rest of our group has left Lodz, so I'm the only one left to lit the fire for them. Igor from Canada, Kazumi from Japan, and Oleg from Moscow. Oleg was also my closest friend here in Lodz. Dagmara acted in his last film. If it wasn't for him, I would have never have met her. I suppose my in-laws have got used to me by now. My coming into their family was something very strange for them, as they had never personally met anyone from Africa before. Naomi and Dagmara make a great bridge between us. They're always very curious about how my mother copes there, especially since most of my Kenyan family are Muslim. However, they have never said anything openly about Dagmara moving to Kenya. In a way, I do regret not having had a Kenyan wedding, as my brother did.
Oh, meditați, la rutină, tata.
This is Dad. This is Mum, Stan, and Cecilia. This is my kid sister Magda. These elders are my grandfather Nora's friends. He was the trusted medicine man. In blue, my sister Fatuma. And that's Dad doing the elders' dance for the very first time. Ever since 1960, when my father embarked on his 2-year journey from Kenya to Poland, our family has always been on the move between the continents. I have to decide if it's the right time to move to Kenya. But still, such physical journeys are easier than those inside. I wonder if I'm still walking on the path I set for myself when I left the safety of home in Kenya. Do you remember the end of my Eucharistic Congress speech in Nairobi? Mother Teresa of Calcutta told me, "Carry on, brave young man. You have spoken for the world's youth." Now, I get scared that I may run out of time to really earn those words. Professor Zakrzewski is one of the few people who still remember my family here. He taught my uncles music, a passion they passed on to me and my brother. This church always played a central part in our family life. This is where my parents got married and where I was baptized. Lots hasn't changed all that much since the time when my parents met while studying medicine here. It took a lot of courage for them to be together. People here are still not too aware that another world exists beyond. My father was very often the very first African anyone had seen here before. He was greeted like a visitor from outer space. Almost 35 years later, I often feel the same. Mr. Olenitak, the local plumber, used to fix the pipes for my grandparents. He remembers all the other tenants. Over the 40 years, he's kept his bike on the road, his only possession.
Mamy sobie jedno okienko, to za chwileczki są i to lubię.
W którym miejscu?
To na wielkiej piętrze. To zmarła niedawno.
This is my mom with a family. This is the family home where I was born and lived until I was 4. I might be the last one in the family to come down here to see what I can save of the bits of our family history. We're down in the cellar where my grandparents used to keep their coal and all sorts of discarded things, I think. Mr. Kerr Barua, that's my father. Even when our family moved to Kenya in 1970, I remained interested in everything that had to do with Poland. I read Polish literature, following closely news on the Solidarity movement and imposition of martial law. When the wall was coming down, I wanted to be in this place where history was being made. But to most people over here, I think I'm just another foreign intruder who could not possibly understand anything of the country's history or culture. I had to teach Adam how to cut my African hair. In Kenya, my dad always did it. Since Stan and I got viciously attacked by a gang of skinheads on the main street in Lodz, I'm very nervous about people getting too close to the back of my head. But what really hurt was that people just looked on as we fought for our very lives. What will Naomi have to go through if she grows up here? But where can we all go? It would be difficult for Dagmar to get a job in Kenya. She says she wouldn't mind moving, but I worry how she would cope with a different culture. My mother managed, but then I also saw the big effort she had to make. She had to learn Swahili and adapt to different customs. I've also spent a couple of years in England, and I know how difficult it is to adapt to a new environment. Together with my family, I am treading on an unknown path in history. In Swahili, though, there's a saying, Iwaponia kunanjia. Where there's a will, there's always a way. Right now, I feel I'm the last link between the Polish and Kenyan sides of my family. If I could, I would move between Poland and Kenya on alternate days. To be honest with you, I'm not quite sure what to do next.